All right, welcome back, folks. It's Mo again. So, what we're going to do in this lecture, we're going to be demoting and removing Active Directory from the first server. We're going to see what's going to happen. Well, guess what? If I remove it from the last domain controlling the domain, it will be a standalone server. So, let's take a look and see. So, I'm going to go ahead and log in. There we go. So, I'm going to go to Manage. We know the drill. Remove roles and features. Next. Next, and remove the check mark from Active Directory domain services. Then remove features. Demote this domain controller. And I have to say, it's the last domain controller in the domain, right? So I'm going to go next, proceed with removal. So this one will be a standalone server. Remove DNS, remove everything that is going on over here, right? And let me put the password and continue on. And I'm going to choose demote. So let's see what works over here for us. It should not take long. And this server could be a standalone server, right? Because it's the last domain controller in the domain itself. So it's a work group technically, right? It's an actual work group. It's a peer-to-peer network, right? That's what it is, a peer-to-peer network. So let's give this a moment and see what it does for us. It's just preparing right now. So right now it's like I have nothing. I got rid of it from server 3. I got rid of the Active Directory from server 2, and I got rid of it from server what? From server 1. That's what I'm about to do. Right? So that's something that we're looking into right now. So in this case, it's like I have to start again from scratch. And that's what I'm going to be doing soon after this is actually done. So this is a last domain control of the domain. So then I'm going to remove the roles and do the same thing just to show you the behavior of what actually happens when you demote a replica, when you demote a child domain, when you demote like the last domain controller. What is the status of it? See, look, it's stopping all these interesting services. Remember, like I always get the sysvol, the netlogon. If it's an actual domain controller, when I demote, I'm not going to see this anymore. All right. See, and it says demotion at the top. So that's what it's actually doing. So I'm not going to see that. Service, let's say also Active Directory Domain Services, DNS, also should be gone. So this server will be a standalone server. If I check local server, it already says it's a work group, so it's actually working on it. It's just in the process of getting restarted right now. That's what it looks like. There you go. See that? So, and it's finished, right? So this will restart in a moment, and that's how I know that this server is a standalone server, which is an actual work group. No longer, I do have an actual domain, all right? And this will not take long because I'm not actually hosting Active Directory. What I want to do is I want to actually continue to remove those roles, which is Active Directory domain services and DNS. That's what I want to do over here. So let's give it a few seconds. All right, almost there. All right. So remember, we're still working with Server 2019. We'll be merging soon later in the class to 2022, like a merge and an upgrade. It's going to be very interesting. Let's see how that works for us. All right. Almost there. All right. There we go. And I should get the log on screen soon. All right. So my next step is let me just go ahead and log on. Let me put the password, right? Let's give it a few seconds and see how this works for us. All right. And I'm going to remove the role itself, but I want to show you that it's actually a work group, right? It's a work group. That's what it is. It's a standalone server at the moment. That's what I have here. And let's wait for server manager to populate and give it a moment. All right. And local server. And as you notice, it's a work group. All right, there you go. So what I want to do next is remove roles and features. See, when I see this on the left side, it doesn't mean it's a domain controller. That's what I wanted to show you too. It's just the role is actually installed. All right. And also besides this, I want to remove also what guys? DNS. Right, folks? So Active Directory Domain Services Right, DNS, that's what I want to remove over here. Next, next, and put a check mark in the box and click on remove. And let's see, this should not actually take long. Because after this lecture, we want to talk a little bit more about standalone servers, even though we've been talking about it like crazy, like workgroups, member servers, domain controls again. So we have a recap of what's actually going on before we go to our next section. So we can start introducing different consoles, and we're going to focus more and more, little by little, like in more depth on each console. That's what we're going to be seeing. So this one's actually almost in the process of finishing. All right. So let's give it a moment and see how this actually works for us. All right, good, good, good. So remember, if you see ADDS, it doesn't mean it's a domain controller. It's just the role is installed, but it's not actually hosting Active Directory, right? It's not hosting AD at all. That's what we need to actually understand and know. Let's give it a few more seconds and it should restart on its own. Right, because I left the check mark in the box where it's going to reboot on completion, right? It's always good to do that. So what I'm trying to say is never remove or add things during business hours, right? You always do this like after hours, on weekends, like working as a network admin. It's not like 8 to 5. It's going to be like after 5. It's going to be before 8. It's going to be on weekends, right? So there's a lot of things that we have to actually understand and look into working as a network administrator. Let's give this a moment and see what happens here. So this is a workgroup machine at the moment. It's a stand-alone server. All right. That's what it is, a standalone server. Let's give it a few more seconds and see what happens over here. I should be fine in a few moments. And then we have to redo again, which is good. The more we do this, the more we get our hands on, the more practice we actually have, guys. Right? It's always practice, practice, and practice. That's how you get adjusted and prosper and continue in the IT field. All right, working on the features. Okay, so let me go ahead and log on. Let me put the password. And it should have the roles gone. So this is a stand-alone server now. All right. And the roles are gone. So if I check, first of all, local server, it's going to say work group, right? That's actually fine. And I'm not going to see the roles over here. I mean, it's going to continue removing the roles. So as I said, I could actually close. You can close this with it without interrupting. So I could close this. In the background, it will actually do so. So everything looks fine now. So we're done with this lecture. Our last lecture part of this section will be just discussing workgroup versus domain controller versus a member server, just as a recap. All right. So we'll see you folks in a moment. We'll be back soon. All right, guys. Later.